Oh, here we go. Thank you. There we go. I didn't have a record button. It was just paused. There we go. Is it recording now?
It is.
Awesome. There we go. Thank you for the reminder. After the class today, anyone who participates, you'll be able to get a copy of this recording as well. So, so we'll send those out to you. We're going to cover these things today. We're going to talk about the economic model, right? How the numbers all fit together and make sense, and you can actually build your path to 100K. We're going to look at the lead generation piece behind it, right? We're really going to get pretty specific on some numbers inside of lead generation. So it will be able to really dial down what number it is you need to be looking at in your business. And from there, we're going to talk a little bit about the budgets and the organizational models, right? Where you could and should be spending your money inside of your business, and what you can look at to get some organizational support in your business right now, and what you can look at as you're growing into. And we're gonna finish that all off today with two different pathways to achieving this success in real estate. All right. Well, let's start with digging into the economic model. The economic model is essentially the compilation of your real estate business, and it boils it down to the number of activities that you need to do to hit your goals. And so we're gonna start by looking at the numbers of your business. We're gonna start by taking a look at one of the biggest numbers that's gonna drive all of this, and this is your average commission rate. Or your average commission amount, what on average you earn per transaction. Now, there's a couple of caveats I want to put in here. You know, some of us have seen, you know, this year looks very different than last year, or, you know, I just had an anomaly and I sold $1 million home, and I don't typically do that, right? So you may not have a very consistent average commission amount. So I have an example here. Inside of our office, we track this number, and currently we have an average commission amount. You'll see it here on the screen of $10,599 per transaction. And how do we get there? We get there by taking our average sales price times our average commission rate. And you can do the math yourself to go through, you know, your past 2 years or so worth of transactions. And because the market hasn't moved, you know, too tremendously over the course of the last 18 months to 2 years, you can look at that trend to see, okay, what is my average sales price been, and what is my average commission rate? So if you want to now go on ahead and take a moment to look into that. However, if you just kind of ballpark where you're at, and you think you're close to this number, this $10,000 number per transaction, then we're going to use this to go forward with our example, and feel free to follow along. This may or may not match your number. So as we're putting together all of this data to kind of figure out what our model is and our path to hitting 100K a year, we've got to look at what happens inside of the buyer and seller cycle too. When we are working from somebody being a lead, to having an appointment, to actually having an agency agreement, to actually becoming a sold property. And so inside of each of these steps, there's a conversion rate. So we start at the top here with how many leads are we generating inside of our business, right? From there, we can see how many turn into listing or buyer appointments. And then once we have an appointment with somebody, how often do they choose to sign an agreement with us? And then once we have an active buyer or we have an active listing, how often do we make it to the closing table, right? That buyer finds the home in agreeable terms and is able to move forward. And the seller receives an acceptable offer, and that buyer makes it all the way through to the closing table. So your numbers may vary a little bit inside of this. But when we look at each of these conversion rates, we're gonna ask ourselves a few questions, because they might be some opportunities in our business. But for the sake of this example, we're using a 75% conversion rate, just generally across the board. This is kind of a minimum standard that you should be shooting at. If your business is a high concentration of referrals and repeat business, and maybe friends, family, sphere of influence, then your conversion rate may very well be a little bit higher, because when you meet with somebody, when you go on that appointment, it's very likely that they're going to say yes. They already have a relationship with you. They're already essentially expecting to have an opportunity to do business together. So your conversion rate might be a little higher there. If your lead generation activities tend to be a little more prospecting based, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, and you're working with for sale by owners, or you're doing some online lead generation, then your conversion rate may not be as high, because they don't have a relationship with you yet. So it's in developing that relationship that's going to allow you to have a higher conversion rate then. The second thing that we consider is the skill level. Now, somebody who's been on hundreds of listing appointments over the course of their career may have a different skill level inside of that listing appointment than somebody who's been in business 18 months and has gone on 4 or 5 listing appointments, right? So we're going to take a look at some of those numbers as well, and having the skill to be able to sit down inside of that consultation or inside of that appointment, and will help to drive up your conversion rate as well. So when we're looking at the conversion rates, we're going to touch on those couple of pieces, right? The place your leads are coming from is going to be a factor, as well as your skill level inside of those. And then, likewise on this second conversion place, how often are your buyers making it to the closing table, right? Some of that might be market driven. If you're working with a lot of buyers in the 350 to 400 price range, they're likely seeing a heck of a lot of competition and multiple offers, and it may take longer to get them to the closing table. And or they might be in a economic band that's been heavily impacted with the pandemic recently. Maybe they've lost their job, or their income is insecure, and so those pieces may have an effect on that conversion, getting to the closing table there. On the seller side, these could be pricing or marketing pieces. If you take a listing that's priced too high, it may not sell, or it may not sell as quickly as another listing. If it's not in saleable condition, things like that could impact it. And sometimes there are some market related issues as well. Right now we can see some of those. There are definitely sellers who have not been able to move forward with the pandemic, or have been impacted by going under contract with multiple buyers, and maybe they're feeling a little bit of burnout right now. But those are pieces that are going to impact your conversion rates in here. And I know I'm kind of moving through these pieces quickly, because we're about to get to kind of some of the math and where all of the numbers tie together. Any questions on your average commission or your conversion rates before we move forward onto those? And I'm going to, just to be really proactive, I'm going to put my chat up here on the next screen. There we go. Well, so here's what it looks like. And there's a big opportunity to do some math here. Don't worry, we're going to make it really easy, and we're going to do it together. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to start out on the top of, you can see this kind of looks like a pyramid, right? We're going to start out on the top of this pyramid, and we're going to manufacture our business so that it matches the amount of money we want to make. And so we start up at the top. You can put whatever number you want to on this top line, but because you've joined me here on your path to 100,000 a year in real estate today, I'm just kind of naturally moving forward with the assumption that we're all here because our goal this year is to make 100 grand. So that's the number I've used. And then a couple of minutes ago, we found out our average commission amount. And so you can fill this in with yours. And what you'll get is you'll actually get your own interactive template that you can plug your numbers into. That'll be sent out with a recording of this as well. So you can kind of play with those back and forth and find the number for you. But in our situation, to gross 100,000 in GCI this year with an average sales commission of $10,599, we'll need to, and this is pretty easy math, right? We're going to need to sell 10 units this year. Okay, so that's going to gross us just a little more than that. So so then we have a little bit of a buffer. Well, naturally, some of those are going to be buyers and some of those are going to be sellers. Your mix may vary from year to year. Maybe you really consistently work with a few more buyers than you do sellers. For the sake of this example, we are just going to assume that that we're at 50% buyers and 50% sellers. Okay, so if we go down the seller side, you'll see that if we have 50% of these 10 units sold a year being sellers, we're going to end up selling 5 units with our sellers. We just talked about conversion rates. And so we're going to say that 75% of the time that we put a sign in the ground, that property is going to sell. Okay. Now your rates may be higher than that. We're still definitely in a market where you know, depending on the price band, there can be multiple offers and short days on market. So this is a pretty conservative number. It's going to rely a little bit on the market that we're in and a little bit on your skill level, pricing, and those kind of pieces here. So we're just going to stick with 75 as a real nice conservative number. Worst case scenario, you end up doing more business and making more money this year, right? So what does that mean? That means that if 75% of those signs we put in the ground are going to sell, then we actually need to take 7 listings this year to be able to sell 5. Okay, 7 listings this year, and depending upon the mix inside of who you're going on those listing appointments with, we're going to just assume as a real conservative number that 75% of the time they're going to choose to sell with you. Okay, so if your appointment ratios, if you're going on a lot more referral or sphere of influence appointments, then that number might be higher. If you work on a lot of for sale by owners or you know, anything like that, then your number might be a little bit lower, and so you can kind of factor that in. However, if you don't have a number here, go ahead and use my defaults. So this says that if we go down this side, we actually need to go on about 10 listing appointments this year, right? That gives us the opportunity to, you know, say no to somebody who's maybe unreasonable about where they want their price to be, or to, you know, go out on a limb and go out on a listing that, you know, isn't a slam dunk and, you know, be competing with other brokers. So that allows us to, at 10 listing appointments, we'd take 7 listings, we'd sell 5 of them. I don't know about you, but when I take a listing, sometimes they just come prepackaged with a buyer, right? Does that ever happen? Somebody has to sell their house and then they're going to purchase one. And because you're going to sell their house, naturally, they're going to choose to buy with you also. So yeah, I know I'm not alone in that. So naturally, we're going to get some buyers off of that. And then we're going to have a sign in the yard with inventory that we get to market. So we may also gain another buyer or 2 off of sign calls or internet ads that we generate off of those listings or whatever that might look like. So, you know, so on the buyer side, that's going to come a little easier, right? Those are going to be the natural byproduct of taking those 7 listings and going on 10 listing appointments this year. And so here's how those numbers shake out. They're exactly like this because we're splitting this business right down the middle, right? So if half of your closings this year are going to come from buyers, then you're going to need 5 buyers to make it to the closing table. if 3/4 of the time when you're working with a buyer, they make it to the closing table. So they find their home, they win out in the competition, everything goes great in inspection and appraisal. You know, they didn't go buy a car right before closing and just mess up their chances of purchasing a home this year, or, you know, do any of those things. Then you're going to need to work with 7 buyers this year. Okay. And if 75% of the time when you have that appointment with the buyer, then and you walk through your buyer consultation, here's what it looks like to work with me. You know, let's sign an agency agreement right away so that you get my very best, and we're committed to each other throughout this process. Then, you know, you're going to need to go on 10 buyer appointments this year. So over the course of a 12-month period, you're really looking at going on 10 listing appointments, which naturally is going to garner you, you know, the opportunity to meet with probably between 5 and 7 buyers, right? Because they're going to need to sell and buy their home, or you're going to get a signed call off of those. So then you have a very small amount of buyer gap to fill in. And that's kind of the path to get there, which turns into meeting with about 1 buyer and about 1 seller every single month, which is way less than 1 a week. And if you were to meet with 1 buyer and 1 seller a month, you would blow this number out of the water, because then you'd be on deck to do, you know, 11 or 12 transactions this year, 13 or 14 maybe, depending on your conversion rates, rather than just 10. So what do you guys think about this? Does this make sense, how your gross commission income is built by going on those listing appointments that lead to the buyer appointments? Awesome. Awesome. Yep, I'm seeing heads nodding. We're getting thumbs up. I'm glad I haven't lost you guys. Well, so now this is kind of the easy math to get to, right? We know that what's important is where the rubber meets the road. It's not about knowing you need to have 10 listing appointments this year. It's about making that happen, right? It's about having the tools in your tool belt to go on those listing appointments. And so, you know, I want to start by making sure that we're focused in the right areas. And first of all, focus on those listing appointments, right? Even though we need an equal number of buyer appointments to make our goal, we know that when we hit those listing appointments, we're naturally going to come with some buyers, right? Sellers need to buy. We're going to have inventory to market and promote, which will then generate more buyers. So focusing on the listing appointments is the first key thing that we can do to make sure that we hit that financial goal this year. And the second thing we can do is focus on the conversion rates. We can look at the skill inside of each of those buckets to make sure that we're dialing up our skills where we need to, right? And we can address those conversion rates. We can customize those so that they not only represent our business, but our mix of business as well. Oh, I thought I lost it there. It's back, no worries. Awesome. Well, so then how do we do it, right? Where are all 20 of those appointments going to come from this year, right? We already know about 10 of them are going to come from buyers that are just naturally going to show up when we take the listings. So really we're focusing on activities that are going to garner more listings into our business. And how do we do that, right? The first thing is we want to focus on these areas. We're going to be prospecting based. Okay. And prospecting based is proactive, going out to find business as opposed to letting it come to find you. We're gonna explore a few ways of doing prospecting based business as well. The second thing we need to do is we need to set up a database and feed it. That's the beautiful thing about those two pieces is when we're prospecting base, what are we prospecting for? We're prospecting to meet new people, right? And when we do that, we're going to create a relationship which includes the exchange of contact information. So when we're prospecting, we're growing our database and we're having the opportunity to feed it. So it's a continual cycle, right? Once we have our database up and running, we want to make sure that we have prospecting activities continuing to fill the funnel and feed our database so that we can do number 3, which is communicate with it systematically. And we're going to look at a system that we can use to stay in regular systematic contact with our database too. Okay. So those are the 3 keys that we need to look at. And the first being prospecting based and marketing enhanced, right? So here's a couple of examples of why. Marketing is phenomenal because it really can help to garner brand awareness. At the same time, it tends to be very money intensive. Marketing is a cash first kind of endeavor, right? Whether it's putting your face on the, the basket at the grocery store or bus bench, or even doing some more passive, Facebook or social media lead generation. Some of those are marketing activities, and they're designed to be passive. They're designed really to create brand awareness and exposure, and they can be a really great idea if they're partnered with the right prospecting activity. However, simply marketing alone is typically not enough to get you this type of business, and it's very passive. So you're waiting for that business to come to you. And the third thing is those are more long-term results. Right? You need to have your name and branding in front of somebody more than 30 times for you to become 30 times in a meaningful way for you to become one of the top 3 brands that they recognize in any given area, right? And let's face it, marketing alone doesn't always do that. Prospecting, on the other hand, tends to be less money intensive. However, it's more time intensive. This is where you get to put some elbow grease and some sweat equity into your business. This is also a more proactive way of going about getting business. This is going out and finding people who are ready, willing, and able to sell, buy, or invest in real estate, right? And prospecting can garner you immediate results. I can literally pick up the phone today, make a call, which would generate an appointment this afternoon, right? Those are very real life, immediate results that we can see from prospecting based activities. And so just a quick Q&A, go ahead and type this in the chat box. Calling for sale by owners. Is this a prospecting or a marketing activity? Oh, I need Jeopardy music. All right, Dwayne says this is a prospecting activity. Vicki, you agree with Dwayne. I agree with you guys. This is proactive. It is an elbow grease activity, 100% for sweat equity in your business, calling for sale by owners. What about advertising in the PTA school newsletter? Is this prospecting or marketing? Oh, and Laura, I didn't miss you on that last one. You said prospecting for sale by owners. Very good work. Marketing for PTA. Yeah, this is a more passive activity designed for brand awareness. Absolutely a marketing activity. I have a couple of more. This is fun. Door knocking in a geographic farm. Is this prospecting or marketing? Justine says it could be both. Vicki says prospecting. Angela says prospecting. Laura says prospecting. if you were actually door knocking and talking to people inside of that community, then you're likely prospecting. If you're simply canvassing that neighborhood, if you are putting door hangers out, then that's probably a marketing activity, so much more passive. But if you're actually knocking on doors to having face-to-face conversations, that's a prospecting activity. Good job, guys. Last one, direct mail to newly married couples. Now, this is direct mail. Is this prospecting or marketing? Oh, I'm seeing a little bit of a mix. We've got some saying prospecting and we've got some saying marketing. I've got to tell you, direct mail going through the US mail, I think that's marketing. That's a passive activity. You don't have somebody face to face who could say yes there on the spot. You're building up that brand awareness. Now, if you were taking that same list of newly married couples and you were calling them, that would probably be a prospecting based activity, or door knocking them. You have their address, so you could go knock on their door, right? That would be a prospecting based activity. Well, so good job on that too, guys. That last one was a kind of a wild card. Here we go. Why prospecting based activities? This graph, what you're seeing here, these are the top lead sources for millionaire real estate agents, for the top agents in the country, right? And so these are their lead sources, and they get 90% of their business from 5 lead sources or less. And guess what? They are all prospecting based. So their top 3 lead sources are sphere of influence, repeat, and referral business. Also included in that is internet and online advertising. Now, this is online advertising that is prompting a response with a call to action. That's actually getting people to, say, fill out a lead form or ask for more information. They're becoming an online lead. That is a prospecting-based activity. A more passive form would be, you know, putting blog posts up to you know, just garner some brand awareness, or using your public facing Instagram or Facebook page to, you know, to talk about business or to raise some awareness without looking for a lead capture back from that, without giving somebody a way to give you their information inside of that. So top agents across the country using prospecting based activities. Now you can enhance those pieces with marketing, right? If you're working with your sphere of influence, or you have referral sources or a referral network, right? Then you're going to be really proactive in staying in touch with them. But you can use marketing to support your brand, to support your cause, and help to keep them thinking about you as their go-to source in real estate. Here's some ideas for prospecting and marketing activities. Some prospecting activities. These are some of my favorites. Look at the list, and what are some of your tops? If you want to just put the numbers on there, you know, if you like expireds and working with past clients, then put 2 and 5 in the chat box. But here's some good ones. 1 is for sale by owners. 2 is expireds. Prospecting around just listeds and just sold, so you can do some circle prospecting inside of a geographic area, right, to share with the neighbors that, hey, this home just sold for, you know, top dollar in the neighborhood, or 123 Main Street's just been listed this weekend. Who do you know who wants to move into this neighborhood that you love so much, right? Past clients. Working your allied resources. This is your vendor database, right? Business to business. Working in a geographic farm. Prospecting through apartment complexes, looking for first-time home buyers. Working with corporations, so getting in touch with their relocation departments and you know, working to become their relocation agents. Builders and banks. So are you developing relationships with builders and banks that they're referring you business, right? Investors, doing client and networking events, social functions, having booths at events like, you know, big ones are like bridal events or home shows and things like that. Those are great opportunities to pick up a booth at a networking event, or having a kiosk in a high traffic area. You know, I see that a lot. At the farmers market, right? There's always a realtor at the farmers market with their awning and their banner up, and you know, there's usually 2 or 3 people around talking. I can never tell though if it's because they're interested in real estate or if it's just because realtors tend to be real social people, so we're just talking to folks anyhow, right? But those are great ways to get out there, and those are more proactive prospecting courses. Angela's all over the place. She likes most of this list here. She has a multi-pronged prospecting approach. I love that. Does for sale by owners. You work with your past clients a lot, do geographic farm, client events, networking events. Love it. Seminars, that's a great opportunity, especially right now. Gosh, just like we're all together on a Zoom, this technology has made it so easy and so welcome to our friends and family and sphere and you know, prospects, right? To join us for a, you know, virtual home buyer seminar, right? How to purchase a new home, how to navigate this market, you know, investment workshops and webinars. All of those are some great ideas. Love it. And then marketing, of course, supporting that. This list is available. It comes from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. This is a more updated version, and it'll be available to you guys as an attachment with this, with the video when it comes out to you also. So that was step 1, right? Be prospecting based. Step 2 was to set up a database and feed it. That's why we prospect. We prospect to feed our database. And when we feed our database with somebody who we met through most of our prospecting efforts, they naturally come in as a lead. A lead is someone whom we have the social agreement of the exchange and contact information. So we have a right to have at least a one-way conversation with them. Okay, and we're going to look at a campaign that's designed to help solidify that relationship with you and move you guys closer together, right? But that's a lead. So they've given both their contact information and the permission for you to reach out to them through whatever channel that is. Maybe they've come into an open house. Maybe it's through circle prospecting around a just sold property, and they said, yes, I'd love to receive your newsletter, or keep me posted when something else comes on the market. We have a friend who'd like to move into the neighborhood, right? You know, these can become leads inside of your database, right? It's the expired who says, you know, we're taking it off the market for now, but in 6 months we're going to try again. Why don't you reach back out to me then? Right? So these are leads. You have the right to have at least a one-way conversation with them, and we're going to work through turning them into contacts. A contact is someone who we've established two-way communication with. So we have that social contract where they know who we are, and they're you know, connecting with us. Now, a contact isn't necessarily a friend or a past client or anything like that. It could be a lead who's raised their hand and said, yeah, I would like some more information, right? Yes, please set me up an automatic MLS search for the homes that I've been looking for, right? Those can be the events that trigger someone to move from a lead to a contact. Essentially, a lead isn't communicating back with us, and as soon as they do, it paves a pathway for consistent two-way communication. And here's a question for you guys. How many people do you have right now in your database? Are you less than 250? You have 250 to 500? You have 500 to 1,000, or 1,000 or more? Oh, I see, over 800 in your database. I love this. This is an important number to watch, because it's going to, look at that. We've got less than 250 and we're building it, and we're building it. Great job. Working on it daily. Yes, you are, Justine. That's why we feed our database with those prospecting activities. We're going to take a look at this because, you know, we really don't have to guess how many people we need to have in our database. It's, you know, we're not prospecting, you know, like throwing spaghetti against the wall. We can be really prescriptive about this and know exactly what our gaps are that we have to fill. So here's a formula for you, and we're going to look at this formula on the next page. But essentially, for us to have the opportunity to do the 10 deals we need to do this year, you'll see that here, right? We need to have a database of a varying size. And we might not be there yet, and that's actually a good thing, because it tells us exactly where we need to go, and we're going to look at that in a second. But on the far side of this graph, you see the conversion rate, right? Just because somebody's in your database, it doesn't mean you have a 100% chance of doing business with them. Now, you know, in rare cases, you might, if you've only made it into the database because you're a past client or a referral. But we're feeding it through these prospecting activities. And so conversion rates through those prospecting activities may vary a little bit. And, you know, depending on how long we've been in the business, our skill level might vary too. So we may have closer to a 50 or even a 25% conversion rate through our database as we're, especially if we're kind of newer to the business, because we're going to, when we first get started, we gather everyone we know and we want to put them in our database, and they might not all deserve to have earned a spot there. So there's a bit of a game that we play, kind of feeding through that database and making sure that we have quality contacts in there who are ready to engage with two-way communication, right? So you know, kind of middle of the road here, 50%. And I would say most real estate professionals have about a 50% conversion rate in their database. It's going to be very, very few and far between who are at that 100% mark. It's really going to be a super rare occurrence. So let's look at the formula and how this plays out, assuming we'll need a 50% conversion rate. Okay, so it starts like this. We want to know how many people are currently in our database. And then based on research and statistics, and I'll tell you how they've come to this number, 6% of the people in your database have the opportunity to do a transaction this year. Okay, so 6% of the people in your database are going to buy or sell or invest this year. And that's just kind of a national statistic. It's based off of this. The first being that 60% or so, give or take a couple of percentage points, 60% of American adults are homeowners. So that means naturally that 40% who aren't homeowners and are never going to be homeowners will never do a transaction with you. But they live in your database anyhow because they can refer business to you. So leave them there. It's good that they're there. So 60% of Americans are going to be homeowners at some point, right? And then we know that people on average right now are making moves every 10 years. So if you do that math, it boils down to 6% annually in your database will actually buy or sell a house. Your conversion rate is how many of them will buy or sell with you. Now, like I said, if that's 100%, that means, you know, if you have 100 people in your database, 6 of them are going to buy and sell this year, and all 6 of them are going to do it with you. Or if you have 1,000 people in your database, 60 of them are going to buy or sell this year, and all of them are going to do it with you. Let's be real. That's not always the case, right? They may know multiple real estate agents, right? Their cousin, their sister, their aunt, their husband, right? Somebody just recently got into real estate and they're going to give them a try. We get it. Totally fine, right? They may have reached out to Zillow or Opendoor. They might be going about their real estate transaction without a real estate agent. Now that stinks, and there's some inherent risk involved, but you know what? That's something that can happen as well. Or we might not have done a great job of communicating to them that yes, we are the real estate agent they should be thinking of, and they went to an open house down the street and fell in love with that real estate agent and used them. It happens. It happens. So the conversion rate I think we're going to use for this example is 50% of the time. Half of the time, which is a really solid number, and most real estate agent businesses run at about that rate. 50% of the time, they're going to use us. So this is going to tell us the current opportunity of our database. For instance, if I have, and I might do, let's try this. We're going to get really fancy. Let's share this. Okay. All right. I saw somebody had 800 in their database. So 800 in your database. And we know 6% of them are going to make a move this year, right? So 800 times 6%. That means, I think, Angela, that was your database. There are 48 people in your database that are going to be buying or selling homes this year. Isn't that exciting? Look at that. Now, here's the piece. We already identified that our opportunity is 50%, right? Because we're not going to win every single one of them. So in your database, if you won 50%, you'd win 24 transactions this year based off of your database. Of course, we have to be regularly and systematically communicating with all of those. And that's the next thing we're going to talk about. That's what gets our conversion rate up to even 50%, right? What are some other numbers? Hey, my chat went away. Let's see if I can pull it back up. There we go. I see this. Less than 250, I'm working hard for more. So let's see where we're at with 250. If I have 250 in my database times 6%, what does that bring us? That means that in your database, y'all have 15 people who are going to buy or sell this year. And then we know that we're going to convert them at about 50%. So that means 7 or 8 are going to buy or sell with us. Right there, already living in your database. We just have to unlock that. Now, 7 or 8 of those would do business with you this year, right? But we already identified that we need 10. We need 10 deals to close, which means we need to go on 20 appointments. So 7 or 8 isn't going to quite get us there. Here's where we get to do the math and find out. And you're going to get this worksheet as well, so that you can do the math for yourself with the information that goes out to you after the class here. So we know we need to sell 10 units this year. And 6% of our database will buy or sell this year, and we're going to work at a 50% conversion rate. So that actually means we need to have 334 people in our database with regular systematic communication. So now, what's your gap, right? If you were at 225, then you know that your gap now is 109 people. So what's your plan, right? Over the course of 12 months, you need to add 109 people to your database, at least, right? If 250 was your number to start with. So how many is that on a monthly basis? How many is that on a daily basis? And as you're doing prospecting based activities, you can really nail down, okay, so if I need to add, so what is that really? 109 divided by 12. I need to add 10 people a month. We're just going to use round numbers here. 10 people a month to my database to make all of my dreams come true this year and to hit my numbers, right? To make all of my goals, I need to add 10 people a month to my database and then communicate with them regularly and systematically. Where do I find 10 people this month? Do I do a virtual open house? Do I engage in circle prospecting or expired phone calls, right? Can I door knock to add 10 people to my database? Like, what can I do? What kind of social events am I a part of? Where can I, where essentially do I find 10 people a month to add to my database as a lead, right? Because that's what we're looking at. So what do you guys think so far? We're gonna take just a brief pause before we look at the overview of the logistics for how you systematically communicate with everybody. How are we doing? Good? Awesome. So now we've identified our gap, right? We're adding 10 people a month to our database so that we can go on one appointment a month. And now we're going to systematically communicate with them. This, you can create your systematic communication plan to look however you want to. But this is a proven path to that type of systematic communication, right? So the 19 to connect is designed to turn somebody from a lead into a contact, right? It's designed to get them communicating with you. So it's going to include phone calls, newsletters, touches as far as emails or direct mails. And then at some point, there's going to be a high value touch that turns them from a lead to a contact. And this is usually them reaching out to you and asking for more information, saying yes to something. Yes, I would like to come to one of your events. Yes, I would like to come to your seminar. Yes, I would like to, I would like more information on homes in that neighborhood, right? Yes, I would. And then they become a contact, and you're going to develop a systematic contact plan that includes at least 36 touches a year. Now, I know that seems like a high number. That's 3 times a month you're going to be in front of your people. And those could be calls, texts, emails, promotional mail. You know, if you could do like a Bronco schedule. If you do client appreciation events, those are a great technique. You know, our office holds those regular client appreciation events that you can invite your sphere of influence, all of your clients, past clients, prospective clients to at no additional charge, and they're all turnkey, right? Are you taking advantage of those to be touches in your business? And the good news with that is we have some COVID events coming up too, like the bingo night that we did. We're working on a few other socially distanced events that will help you connect with your sphere too. So keep an eye out for those. We're really excited about how we're going to be able to bring those events out to everybody. So we had 3 jobs, right? We were going to be prospecting based so that we could fill our database and feed it regularly. And then we're going to, of course, have that focus on seller listings, right? Because honestly, you could list 6 homes this weekend, but you might only be able to show 2 buyers, right? It's just more leverageable. It's also more profitable. You're spending less time, energy, and resources on making that happen. And I can't stress this enough. When you have a listing, you have inventory. And when you have inventory, you have something to market, and that marketing can elicit a prospect, right? So it creates this whole circle. Focus on seller listings. They generate buyer opportunities. They are the fuel that gets this whole system running. And so here's kind of a brief overview of what we just covered, right? We are doing prospecting and marketing. Disappeared. Prospecting and marketing, fill the top of our funnel. Leads become contacts. We work through them with our touch campaigns to cultivate that relationship. And that generates a buyer or seller appointment, right? So let's put all of this together here. We start off, I don't know why it keeps going away like this, but let's do this. There we go. We're going to start off with, oh goodness, no, it's not drawing for me either. If I turn my little pen on, there we go. We're going to start off with that 100,000 in GCI. That's our goal. We know that we need 5 sellers and 5 buyers to get there. We've done all the math, and we know that we need to go on 10 listing appointments and work with 10 buyer appointments. Listing appointments, buyer appointments to make this happen, right? And then we identified some ways to fill our databases through prospecting so that we can have at least 334 contacts in our database. Are we on track so far? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Also, a quick question. You know, we're right at the top of the hour here. Which category describes you the best? Are you a new agent who's been in business less than 6 months? Go ahead and pop it in the chat box. Are you an individual agent who's been in longer than 6 months? Are you on a team? Or are you a mega agent who already has a team? Which describes you? Newbie. Laura says she thinks she's got a lot of work to do. Hold that thought, okay? Because we're going to talk about some things in a second here that I think are going to be really interesting. Under 6 months, Jacqueline, I love it. Individual agent, soon building a team for Angela. Longer than 6 months, Vicki. Awesome, guys. Well, here we go. Let's talk about our money, right? Because if we're going to earn 100,000 a year GCI, well, we're going to have to keep a focus on our budget, right? And we are going to have to budget some money into our business, right? So we're going to look at ways to lead with revenue, play red light, green light, and then stick to that budget. So leading with revenue. I will tell you, not even the first time I heard the term lead with revenue, but up for months and months and months until I read the book everybody was telling me to read called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Whenever I heard lead with revenue, what I thought I was hearing was that you have to spend money to make money. Nope, that's not it at all. The truth is you actually need to make money before you spend it. You want to build your business on your own money as opposed to building it on debt, on borrowed money, on other people's money, right? When you're continually leading with expenses, what you're doing is you're kind of creating a hamster wheel inside of your business that makes it impossible to get off of, because that wheel's just going to keep growing and growing and growing before you're able to get off of it, right? So we want to start with those prospecting based activities for a few reasons. First, they work, right? When we want to generate business today, and the name of this class is not make 100K in 5 years, right? We want to do it today. We want to do it now. We want to generate income this year. Then we need to be prospecting based. And the great news about prospecting activities is they're typically at no or low cost. They're definitely much less cost than marketing based activities. So it's going to be able to keep our budget really low. And so that's what we want to look at. And then as we're generating revenue in our real estate business, we can then reinvest some of those revenues back into creating more business, right? But we need to start with the revenue. And then we're going to play red light, green light. Every time we reinvest $1 back in our business, we need to stop and we need to wait for results to show up. You know, a good period of time, depending on what that investment is 3 to 6 months, because, you know, there's like a 90-day cycle in real estate, right? It takes time to work with a prospect, to sign a prospect, to, you know, prepare a home to go on the market, for the listing period to be under. I mean, there's a clear sales cycle that takes some time. So you need to make sure that you're giving enough time to actually see what kind of return you're getting on that type of investment. And until you've reached that period of time, 3 or 6 months, whatever you're going to dedicate in your mind, you are going to stop. You're not going to spend another dollar. And then you're going to reevaluate it at that 3 month, at that 6 month period before you spend any more money. Right? You know, the goal is to not even be, you know, you don't even want to be looking for dollar exchanges, right? If I spend $100 in my business and I get $100 return, well, then that probably wasn't worth my money, right? But if I spend $100 in my business and I get, you know, another client out of that and I get a $10,000 return, well, then was that worth it? And is it duplicable? Can I continue to do that? So you're going to want to play red light, green light. And then this is the hardest part, and probably of this whole darn thing. Stick to a budget and then review with a natural rhythm for budgeting. Every single month, you need to be in the books of your business, even if it's a month that not a lot happened, because it happens from time to time. We're going to have a month that we go without a closing, you know, or whatever the case may be. We still need to be in our business. We need to be keeping an eye on all of our expenses and making sure that we're on track. You should keep a monthly budget and work within that budget weekly, and then look for variances and figure out why you're off. Now, when folks are getting into real estate, and even people who've been in forever, I mean, let's face it, for a hobby, right? And we don't have any intention on turning this into a business, right? That's not you guys. Clearly, you're looking to turn this into a business. That's why you're here today. But if you just wanted to hold a license, my experience is that you can hold your real estate license for approximately $200 a month, right? That includes all of the necessary fees of just holding your license. That doesn't include any marketing, any additional services or technology or anything like that. Early on in your business, I recommend to most agents to put together, and it's a modest budget for up to this $100,000 in real estate. But I think you can do a fair amount of prospecting based activities, provide a little bit of marketing support, and take advantage of free resources like our office client appreciation events with a $500 per month budget for everything inside of your real estate business. Things that should go into that are, you know, your brokerage and transaction fees should be counted into that. So if you're working with a transaction coordinator, any operation fees. So that's going to be what you pay for the MLS. That's going to be what you pay for contract software if you're using DocuSign or CTM or whatever it is. That's going to include the your board dues spread out across the year, opportunities for training and educational events that will give you an opportunity to increase and enhance your business. That would give you an opportunity to participate in, various coaching programs. And then, based on the plan we just built, you're going to be taking 7 listings this year. And that budget would allow you to do the marketing on 7 listings as well. Okay, so that would include, photography, Matterport, maybe limited print marketing, as well as, buying signage when you need it to go into listings, replacing business cards, things of that nature. So it's for close to that $500 a month range. Your budget may, ebb and flow a little bit, but that's a pretty good number at this point in your business to stick with. And eventually, right, here's what happens. We've put together the plan. You're hitting that 100,000 a year in real estate. You're ready for the next level, right? You've created a lead generation plan. You're following up with it regularly. You're growing your database consistently and garnering new business out of that, right? You've created a budget for your business. You're sticking with it. You've created the habit for your business budget. Eventually, you're going to want to grow. Right? And so as you grow from being a real estate agent to a real estate business owner, this is just kind of a sneak peek of the type of environment you can create around yourself inside of this industry. And it's absolutely huge. You'll see in this organizational chart that you aren't even directly related to the real estate transaction anymore. And yet we don't get there overnight. So here's what your business looks like today. It's you. Most cases it's you. And if you read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, you'll find that this is the first level of being a millionaire real estate agent. And this is level 1. And this is where most agents are at. Level 1 will take you to about 36 or so transactions inside of your business, being just you. But, here's the truth of that. I think that there should be another level in here, and I call it level 1+. This is just you with what I consider transactional leverage. These are people that you've added to your organization that help you with some support activities, and they have a low risk business plan with them. The first is a transaction coordinator or a transaction manager. You can add a TC to your business for about $350 a transaction. And I assure you, it is the best money you'll ever spend inside of your real estate business. Okay. And I call that level 1+. You could have a marketing person that, that your TC could even do some marketing for you, right? And so for every listing, maybe they charge you $150 to help make sure that listing goes everywhere that it's supposed to do, or do some marketing related activities. But the important piece here is that these are not people that you have hired. They don't work exclusively for you. They're not reliant on you for their income, right? They work with multiple people, and you have a contract relationship with them that has a low or no commitment, right? If it doesn't work out for this transaction, you can choose someone else for the next transaction. So I find that this is really the best place, and where probably most of you who are on this call are at today, right? So definitely take the opportunity to look at having a transaction coordinator in your world. And then occasionally you may want to have a peer partnership to be able to help you show properties. This is going to be one of the key pieces that will allow you to have a life inside of this industry. Work with somebody that you trust inside of your brokerage who you can have that relationship with. If they go out of town this weekend, you can show their properties, or if you go out of town next weekend, they can show your properties, and you have an agreement in place for that. And you're probably, when you do something like that, you're probably paying per door that somebody shows instead of splitting your transaction. You're probably doing like, you know, $25 or $50 a door to have them open that up for your clients. And you're going to do most of the legwork on that, like find all of the properties and make sure they're set. You're just leveraging somebody to give you a little bit of time back inside of your world in your path here to 100K. Once you hit that 36 transaction, though, you're going to be ready for a full-time assistant. That'll be closing about 3 deals a month. And then that full-time assistant should bring another 12 plus transactions into your world, which brings you the opportunity to bring a second assistant into your business. And eventually that would lead to having somebody show homes for you full-time. So that's when you really start getting your nights and weekends back. And there are various paths to do that. This is the path of the millionaire real estate agent. So we're going through. I'm going to bring this back up. So we're going through. We've made our plan to generate that 100,000 a year, working with closing 5 listings and 5 buyers. By having 10 listing appointments, which would lead naturally to 10 buyers appointments. To make all of this happen, we have to have 334 people in our database. We can make all of this happen for under, I'm going to be very specific there, under 500 a month, because there are definitely some ways that you can leverage your dollars even further, especially as you're getting started, right? Oh, and by the way, I so apologize for my elementary school chicken scratch on the screen. I promise in real life, I write better than this. Oh, goodness. I'm not sharing that screen, Angela says. Can you see my whiteboard?
No.
What I'm writing? Oh, I can now? Okay, good. Good. Okay, so, and then we're going to do this by adding a TC into our world to complete our team, right? Maybe a marketing person, if that makes sense, but definitely that transaction coordinator, and then having that partnership with somebody, you know, who's close to us in our business, who can help us showing homes and things like that. How are we doing so far? Feeling good? I guess my camera's here. I'm looking at you there, but my camera's here. Doing good? Awesome. Awesome. So we just figured out how to map our business at 100K, right? Angela just nailed it when you said in the chat, what you love about this is you can replace 100K with whatever number you want and everything stays the same. It's just the numbers that change, right? All of the other math is going to stay the same. It's just going to change those numbers. And then you get to align your activities with those numbers. So, you know, what if you didn't want to do it in a year? You know, what if you want to get there in 6 months? Right? What if you want to get there in 1 month? The math is the same. What you'll have to do is find a way to get those activities done, right? And can you guys see my slide now? You're thinking big? Look good? Awesome. Now, you know, a lot of this came from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? And this, if you haven't read this book yet, it's called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's by Gary Keller and Dave Jenks and a few others. And what they did was they interviewed top real estate agents from around the US, and they said, what are you doing in your business, right? What makes your business so big and so great? And they extrapolated it down to a few things that they all had in common that are completely duplicable and can translate into any business, right? But let's think big for a second. What if your goal is not to do 100K this year? What if your goal's to do, I don't know, what if it's to do 1 million this year and you want to net 1 million? Can you guys see my whiteboard? We can. Let's run that number. So $1 million in GCI. So we're gonna gross $1 million this year, right? We already found out that our average commission is about what? 10,955. No, 10,599. That's what it was. Okay. So we need to do 95 units to gross $1 million. We're just going to assume again that we're 50% listings and 50% buyers. So we're going to do 47 units here and 47 units here. That's going to get us to 94 units, but it's going to be cleaner math, right? So 47 divided by 0.75. So we're going to need to go on and take 63 listings taken. Naturally, that's going to lead to about 63 buyers, right? And then from 63 listings taken, right? We're going to actually need to go on 84 appointments with sellers and 84 with buyers. Which, if you do the math, is about 7 a month on each side, or you take some time off for vacations, you're doing 2 a week. So we started today by building a system that got us to doing 1 listing appointment a month. As your database grows and as your conversion rates increase, right? If you're able to move from 1 a month to 2 a month to 3 a month to 1 a week to 2 a week, when you hit that 2 a week mark, you're at $1 million in GCI. And then you do the same math to figure out what your database needs to look like from there. So anyone who's willing to explore that conversation, I'm happy to help you figure out the math all the way down on, you know, how to get to 100K in GCI this month, or how to get to 1 million in a year. We can definitely take a look at that. I don't know about you, but my first impression when I saw that was, well, that's not that much. If I can do 1 a month, I can surely do 2. And if I can do 2 a month, then I can probably do 1 a week. And if I can do 1 a week, couldn't I do 2 a week? So now that you're thinking big about your business, it's time to think competitively and strategically. And you should utilize your strengths. That's where you're going to get the biggest payoffs inside of this industry, is thinking competitively and strategically. And Laura says, hey, that's 2 a week for each buy and sell. So really it's 4 a week to get to 1 million. Yes, and at that point, you very likely have somebody who's working with your buyers for you as well, right? Like a buyer's agent or somebody like that. So it may not be as much as you think, but yeah, 2 sellers a week, which would naturally lead to 2 buyers, because those sellers might also have to buy a home, or you get the advertising buyers coming in off of those. So thinking competitively and strategically, utilizing your strengths. We all have different areas where we're exceptionally maybe skilled or gifted, or where our personality and behavioral profiles kind of give us an advantage, or we are naturally kind of a better fit there. And one of the best ways to unlock that is through like personality assessments. And so here's some of the most common ones, right? You know, you've probably all seen these before. Put it in the chat box if you know your type on any of these. So I threw Myers-Briggs up here. We've got this to me, it's a new one because I've just recently been introduced to the Enneagram. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with those, or the DISC profile. With the DISC profile, you get kind of a letter or a couple of letters that you identify with, and Myers-Briggs, you get, you know, kind of that 4-letter setup there. These are awesome because they can help give you a lot of insight about who you are and how you work with others, how you do in a team setting, right? All of those different pieces. Yet, they're very generic. And they're not real estate specific. So while they can tell you a lot about who you are, they don't really tell you a lot about who you are inside of this industry, right? So because of that, we went and created our own. We call it the KPA, or the Keller Personality Assessment. So Angela says she's stuck on a screen. If you guys can just throw in the chat box what you see on your screen, that'd be really helpful to see if it's if you're tracking with me or not. You should see the initials KPA on your screen with a little brain icon. Okay. Cool. Thanks for letting us know, Ange. It looks like it might just be you. Sorry. Oh, she's going to come back in. Awesome. So here's what that KPA does, that Keller Personality Assessment. It goes in depth, just like those other personality and behavioral assessment tools, and identifies who you are and how you think and how you solve problems. And then it layers who you are over some of the best descriptions of some of the job roles that we have inside of the real estate industry. And it says, here you go. You'd probably be a really good match with this. This is something that that would probably suit your strengths really well. And so that's what you see here. Is this is mine, and some of the things that that I'm a really good match for inside of our business, right? And then it actually breaks it down, and it says why would you be a good match doing what you're doing, right? And it breaks it into all of these different traits. And so what we do is we'll actually go through this together, and we'll identify, okay, what is it about this particular trait that makes you a really high match in this role? And it looks like you're off on this trait. What would you look for, you know, to be able to identify that inside of your world? How could it impact you? And so it's an awesome conversation, and it helps you kind of decide, or better decide strategically, what kind of real estate world you want to be able to live in. And so we use this as a tool to help agents identify what path they want to take forward in their real estate career, and how they want to, you know, in our world right now, how we want to go and make it to 100K a year, right? Because there's really 2 distinct paths inside of that. You know, what we talked about today, and I'll bet you, Laura, this is what struck you as, wow, I've got work to do, right? Is because talent, systems, and standards are pieces inside of our world that we need to work on, right? There's a system that we use to funnel people into our database. There's a system that we use to organize it all. There's a system that we use to systematically communicate and strategically. And then we have standards. We have standards of which we want to operate our business by. right? And so you want to keep those things in mind as you're building out your business and as you're deciding which path you want to take inside of the industry. And the last thing I would say is you want to be able to think persistence and resilience, right? Self-control and grit, more than talent or IQ, may hold the keys to a better life. And I'll tell you, they hold the keys to a better real estate business. You'll see in this graph what most people think success looks like. And we think it looks like, I made a phone call, so I got a client today, right? That would be that straight up trajectory of success. The reality is, we have a lot of foundation to build, and there is a lot of lag measures inside of our business, which means that we can be doing a lot of work on the back end that just doesn't show up right away. But when it starts to show up, it shows up in this hockey stick style configuration, right? Where you're working along and you just may not be seeing, huge results right away. But if you have persistence and resilience and the ability to just keep with it, you're going to start seeing some small gains inside of your business, and they'll be incremental, and then overnight it's going to feel like it's exponential, like you've gone from 100K to 1 million in the blink of an eye, because that's how it builds off of it. So for anyone who's feeling like they're in this space right now, oh, I'm with you. And it is tough. Grit is the get up in your go. I love that. Stick with it. Keep doing the things. Those 3 things we talked about, right? Be prospecting based, right? Fill your database and then systematically communicate with it. If you're doing those 3 things inside of your business, then you're on the verge of a hockey stick. You've just got to stick with it, right? And one way that you're going to stick with it is with action and accountability, right? You actually have to wake up and add people to your database every day. You absolutely do. We don't have a job. We've been fortunate enough to be employed by ourselves, to have a career in this industry. And so we have to wake up and go to work every day. So think action and accountability. Here's some cool stats I wanted to include here, right? Individuals with written goals. So those of you who went through the class today and actually filled out the numbers on your own, or when you get the email from me, you're going to fill in the blanks and determine your own destiny here. You're going to be 42% more likely to actually achieve that goal. Now, here's the kicker. If you add accountability to that, you're even 77% more likely to achieve that. Right? Accountability is it's almost like a 4-letter word in this industry, right? Because we got into real estate, for some of us, because, well, honestly, we just really didn't want to have a boss anymore. But I've got to share this with you on what my view of accountability is. Accountability is having somebody in your corner standing up for you when you've been here for too long and you can't seem to stand up for yourself, right? Because we've all had that moment where we're just, we need to be here, right? We feel like we should be. And when we're still over here, we're hitting our head against the wall and we feel like we're ready to quit. Or we don't see why it's important to do it every day. It's not adding up. It's not adding up. Having accountability is like someone who can see behind the curtain, and they know that you're so close to being able to hit that next level of success, and they're going to help you get there. I heard this the other day about accountability as well, and particularly in working with a coach. But do you know what the #1 best-selling books are? They're always the top of the New York Times bestseller list. They are diet books, weight loss books. Yet, America is among the most obese nations in the country, right? So more and more and more of us are consuming this information. In fact, you may have gone through this class today and said, I know all of that. Awesome. Who's helping to hold you accountable to doing it every day? right? It's the same reason why those books fly off the shelf and we're still, eating cheeseburgers, because we don't have that person in the corner who's helping to support us when we need it the most. We just don't have that partner who we can tell them, we can verbalize what our goals are, and they'll help us to actually get there. And I add this as kind of the last slide in this conversation before we talk about those two pathways to success, because it's so important that no matter which way you go, one of the most important things is that you find a way to have accountability in this. If you do nothing else from this class, but you reach out to me afterwards and you say, Anna, I could use some accountability, then game on. Let's go. I think you've gotten the gist of this class, right? And you're well on your way to making your goals. If it's 100K this year or this month or 1 million, right? It's about looking for accountability. So what are those two paths? How do you get there? And I think it's pretty clear. You either work with a coach who's going to help you build this path yourself, or you work in a team environment and you can plug into a path that's already built. Now, both of these paths provide everything we talked about: the systems, the models, the guidance, and the accountability. Yet there are some choices here. Why would you go with coaching? So the coaching path, this is ideal for somebody who is an individual agent and intends on staying that way. Maybe it's because you're already an entrepreneur. You have a strong desire to build and own your own business. Quite frankly, you're sick of working for somebody else. And, you've probably proven to yourself in your past lives or past careers, right, that you're one of the hardest workers and you're ready to go make a difference in your business, right? You have a vision. You can really clearly visualize exactly what you want to do. You can see your brand, you can see your standards, you can see your systems. You know what it looks like. You may not know exactly how to get there. That's why you'll work with a coach, right? But you know what it looks like. You have a vision for it. Or maybe you're just kind of that, typical type A personality. You're headstrong, you have a desire to do it your way and have full control over your business, right? In this case, you might not have done well working for others in the past, right? The real estate industry is full of people who, let's face it, quite honestly, we couldn't always keep a job because we're too headstrong to, go about doing it your way when we saw a better way to do it. Right? And so that's why I think coaching is an awesome path. And we can use the personality assessments. We can use tools like the KPA to help determine whether or not that's the path that's right for you. Right? And then you utilize that coach as an accountability system and to provide that guidance in developing your own systems and your own models and helping hold yourself accountable to the results in your business. Now, the other path that I've seen a tremendous amount of success in for the right individuals is inside of a real estate team. Now, this looks a little bit different. You're still an independent contractor. You're just working inside of somebody else's organization, right? Who's a good fit inside of this role? Well, it's somebody who feels like they're best as in a supportive role. They're really driven by helping others succeed, and they really have a strong desire to be a part of a team, right? Teams tend to be a great fit for people. You prefer working with people and developing relationships to having to build out the systems and the models and all of those pieces. You just want to be able to plug and play and, go make phone calls and show homes, right? And the team path is also great for those who prefer to have a structured setting. Now, sometimes, but not always, this could be somebody who's coming out of corporate America or somebody who's always worked for somebody else, right? Sometimes it's people coming out of the service industry, right? You have somebody else telling you kind of what the standards are. They've had the vision, they've created the plan, they've developed the system to bring success, and then you just get to plug into that system and be able to, be able to grow inside of that. And so, a great tool for that is that personality profile, right? We can go through inside of that KPA and we can look at, where would you really thrive? What would some of your strengths be? How would that become an advantage for you in one situation over the other, right? But at the same time, even on the team, they have the systems and the models. You have the guidance inside of the leadership of that team, right? The agents who've been doing it longer, or, the team leader inside of that. And then the accountability, right? Because essentially when you work on a real estate team, what's happening is you're working inside of somebody else's small family owned business. And so, naturally they're going to hold you accountable to doing business the way that they like to do business, right? And so there's kind of a give and take in that. And both of these approaches have led, to wild success. And I know that they'll bring you to your income goals as well, be it 100K this year in real estate, or, this month, or $1 million, right? You can develop a path inside of either of these that are going to get you exactly where you need to go. So as we're wrapping up today, let's see if I can share back again, and we'll see, Angela, if you're able to move with us, if I don't end up freezing your screen. But this is where we were. Remember, we built out a plan to earn $100,000 in GCI by selling 5 listings, working with 5 buyers. We would do that by going on 10 listing appointments and 10 buyer appointments. So to get there, we'd have that 1 a month is our focus, 1 listing appointment a month. And to do that, we would end up needing 334 people in our database. And, if you were in that group who had less than 250, well, we identified that you'd need to add at least 10 a month to your database to hit that 334 to make this all happen. You can do this with less than $500 in expenses every month. You're going to want to hire that transaction coordinator who gets paid at closing. Remember that. I cannot tell you, it is the coolest thing that's ever happened inside of real estate, is the transaction coordinator. So take advantage of that. Make sure, I know a few really, really good ones. So if you want a referral, let me know. And so you can get here by picking your path, either working with a coach. Because let's face it, if you're going to make 6 figures a year in this business, you're a professional, and professionals have a coach. So you want to have somebody on your team who's going to help you get to that next level, right? And if you're not ready to be the captain of your own team, or that doesn't appeal to you, maybe you want to look at joining a successful team. And if that's something that you're interested in, either way, we have some opportunities available that I'd be, thrilled to chat with you guys about. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open this up to any Q&A for the next couple of minutes, but here's what you can expect over the next, you know what, I think I can stop sharing altogether. Over the next couple of days, I'll be reaching out to all of you who joined the event today. You'll get the full recording, all of the supporting documents so you can put your plan in place. And I'll also reach out to you to be able to do that KPA, that personality assessment, so that you can start to identify what might be the best fit for you and your business. Okay. If you know right away that you're interested and excited about taking that KPA, then you can go ahead and just say yes in the chat box, and I'll reach out to you today to get that scheduled. And we'll put that on the books even before the recording's available for you guys, so that we can start having that conversation. But let's do this. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute your microphones or throw them in the chat box. Awesome, Laura. So, one of the things that I saw while I was preparing for this class is I was pretty surprised at the numbers. I'll be really honest with you. I thought it was going to take a lot more. I thought it was going to take a lot more than that to be able to hit six figures in this industry. And I was really kind of pleasantly surprised at the numbers the way they were. Who feels like that was really obtainable, something that you can do, or that you feel like you're already well on your way to doing this year? Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, Laura, I'll reach out to you this afternoon. What you'll do is you'll just see a link come from me to be able to take your KPA, and then we'll put together a time next week to review it. Okay. And then we'll be able to put that together. I'll reach out to you. I see a couple of pieces in the chats. Folks are looking for other opportunities to take the KPA. They're looking for team opportunities, and I've got somebody looking for transaction coordinator opportunities. I will send those referrals to you when we get out the entire package for everybody. Absolutely, and we'll be able to go from there. I'm going to leave this open here for the next couple of minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to answer those. Otherwise, I'll be reaching out to all of you with the recording packages and the KPA, and we'll start having that conversation. All right, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for sticking with it.
Thank you so much. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Amy, did you have any specific questions or anything before I wrap up for the day? I'm gonna go ahead and close out the Zoom so that we can get the recording out. Awesome. I see that in the chat. You're all good. It was awesome to have you on today. I'll get you out the link to the KPA so that you can start exploring that piece as well. And I look forward to having a chance to meet you. We'll have the recording and everything else out shortly. So you guys all take care and have a great evening.